Hey guys, I'm James, and in this video I'm going to show you how to fit the gate mate pad bolt or Brenton bolt to a wooden gate. Now it's a relatively simple job, but it can be botched quite easily if not done correctly. I'm going to show you a few tips on how to make it go smoothly and make it as secure as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. This channel is focused on maintaining and creating anything that you can think of in your garden. If you want to keep your garden in tip-top shape, then please stick around and click that subscribe button. Also, you can click that little notification bell to be notified when new content is uploaded. Okay, so the pad bolt comes in two parts. The main body of the pad bolt with the sliding bolt and also the ring on it where you can attach a padlock. And then you have the receiving part. Fits to the gate with a combination of screws and bolts. The round holes are for the screws and the square holes are for the bolt. When you come to fit the bolt, you'll normally be fitting it on the inside face of the gate to one of the horizontal rails. If you wanted to fit the bolt somewhere else on the gate, you'll need to fit a lock block first before fitting the bolt. You don't want to fit it on the outside face of the gate because it makes it easy for someone to just come along and unscrew it from the gate and then get easy access to your property. They would normally be fitted on the top rail, as the middle rail would normally have a latch on it, and on larger gates or a pair of gates you'd have drop bolts on the bottom. On smaller gates though, some people prefer to fit the bolt on the bottom rail because it makes it a lot more difficult for people to reach over and unlock the bolt. It's often a good idea to fit one on the bottom and the top rail though, for added security. It also helps prevent warping and the gate sagging over time.
So to start with, you want to line the latch up parallel with one of the horizontal rails. You can do this visually, but if you want to be absolutely perfect, you can hold up a square to the edge of the gate and line the pad bolt up with the square. You want to keep the pad bolt away from the edge of the gate by 5 or 10 millimeters. This is to prevent splitting the wood. Just pull it back a bit away from the edge of the gate, just enough so it's not sitting directly on the edge. Once you have the bolt in the perfect position, you can then mark with a pencil 2 of the round screw holes through the body of the pad bolt. Then, with a 3mm wood drill bit, pilot hole the 2 holes that you have marked to a depth of 40mm. Once you have pre-drilled the 2 holes, you can then offer back up the pad bolt and screw it in with the 5x40 screws provided. At this point, if you're not bothered about fitting the pad bolt with the bolts as well, you can just pre-drill the rest of the holes, including the square bolt holes, and then just fill up with screws. If you are fitting the bolts to the pad bolt, then just leave the square holes free of screws. Once you have the main body of the pad bolt secured to the gate, close the gate and slide the bolt to the closed position. Offer up the receiver to the bolt and position it away from the edge of the gate. Leave an equal amount of clearance around the bolt so the bolt can slide freely. Now you have the choice of fitting the receiver with either the bolts or the screws. If you're using screws, then pre-drill both holes and screw up the receiver with the screws. If you're fitting the bolts, then you'll need to pre-drill one hole and screw this up. This will keep the receiver in the correct position for when you drill the bolt holes.
Now if you want to add a bit more security to your gate and make it much harder to remove the pad bolt than just unscrewing a few screws, you can secure the pad with the bolts provided as well as the screws.
Now to do this, you will need to drill through the square holes of the pad bolt and into the gate. You do not want to drill right the way through the gate from one side though, as once the drill bit bursts through, you run the risk of splitting the wood on the opposite side of the gate. You want to use a drill bit with a spur or point on the end. Drill through from one side of the gate until the spur just protrudes on the opposite side. To make this easier, you can fit the drill bit with a bit of tape to mark the exact depth you need to achieve this. Go around to the front of the gate, line up the point on your drill bit with the small hole that's visible and finish drilling through. Once you've completed drilling all your holes, it's just a case of pushing the bolts through the holes and fitting the washer and nut to the inside of the gate. You want to tighten the bolts just so the domed head of the bolt pulls in nicely on the outside of the gate, but not so tight that it begins to crush the wood of the gate. Once the bolts are all tightened, just double check that the pad bolt slides in nicely. You will probably have to cut down the bolts with a hacksaw or angle grinder, as these are supplied quite long to fit larger framed gates.
The bolts that come with the pad bolt are long enough to be fitted to a pair of gates. Now, if you want to fit the keep with the bolts onto a gate post, you'll need to get suitable length bolts for the size of gate post that you're going to be bolting onto. Now, you'll quite often find that the gate will rattle in the wind. Now, that can obviously be quite annoying as it will make a lot of noise.
When fitting a single gate, you can quite simply fit a gate stop to the gate post. This is just a piece of timber, usually a 2x1, screwed onto the gate post and sitting flush up against the outside edge of the gate. This just creates a stop for the gate, which can keep the gates aligned and the bolt flush up against the receiver. You may need some help with this, but you'll want to close the gate and then close the pad bolt. Push on the front face of the gate to reduce the space between the bolt and the receiver. Then you can screw on the gate stop to hold the gate in this position. You want to be careful though, as to not apply too much pressure, or you may find the bolt will be too tight and become difficult to slide across.
Now, to stop the rattling on a pair of gates, you'll need to recess the receiver into one of the gates. That would involve marking out around the receiver, chiseling out a bit of the material underneath, a few mil, fitting the receiver back on, and then that would fit much tighter against the bolt itself. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have, please click that like button. I'll also be fitting a combination lock to this gate, so click that subscribe button and click the notification bell to be updated when this content becomes available. If you do like the video, especially all the subscribers, please click the like button, as it will really help the video to grow and help my channel. Without all the comments, the likes and the shares, the videos do really struggle, so I appreciate any kind of engagement. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.